नेशन फर्स्ट की भावना से भरा होता है, राष्ट्र सर्वोपरि होता है, तो फौलादी फैसले जाता है।
ये नुकसान। How our air defense systems have thwarted the enemy drones, their fighter aircraft, their missiles. We achieved total surprise, and those strikes across those 9 terror hubs left more than 100 terrorists killed.
टेरर और टॉक एक साथ नहीं हो सकते।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has declared that the strikes on terror hubs in Pakistan were not a one-time response, but a new national policy against terrorism. Well, this is in his first address after Operation Sindoor. Prime Minister warned that Pakistan will have to get rid of its terror infrastructure if it wants to be saved. While speaking for 22 minutes, Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveiled what he called India's new normal in the fight against cross-border terrorism. The Prime Minister outlined 3 key pillars of India's security doctrine. Firstly, that any terrorist attack on India will be met with a strong and resolute response. The Prime Minister said that India had merely paused its operations against Pakistan and future action would depend on Pakistan's behavior. He warned that Islamabad, that terror and talks cannot coexist. Modi said India had destroyed 11 military sites and air bases and eliminated over 100 terrorists in strikes that shocked the Pakistani military. Prime Minister said that Pakistan contacted India in desperation after suffering heavy losses in the first 3 days of hostilities.
भारत के ड्रोन्स, भारत की मिसाइलों ने सटीकता के साथ हमला किया। पाकिस्तानी वायुसेना के उन एयरबेस को नुकसान पहुंचाया, जिस पर पाकिस्तान को बहुत घमंड था। भारत ने पहले 3 दिनों में ही पाकिस्तान को इतना तबाह कर दिया, जिसका उसे अंदाजा भी नहीं था।
Secondly, nuclear deterrence would no longer shield terrorism. Prime Minister said that India would not bow to nuclear blackmail and made it clear that the responsibility to prevent escalation now lies with Islamabad.
कोई भी न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल भारत नहीं सहेगा।
The Prime Minister also delivered a stark message. If Pakistan wants to survive, it must demolish the terror infrastructure it has been feeding. He asserted that India will not differentiate between terrorists and the government that supports them.
पहला, भारत पर आतंकी हमला हुआ तो मुंह तोड़ जवाब दिया जाएगा। दूसरा, कोई भी न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल भारत नहीं सहेगा। तीसरा, हम आतंक की सरपरस्त सरकार और आतंक के आकाओं को अलग अलग नहीं देखेंगे।
With India suspending the Indus Waters Treaty after the Pahalgam terror attack, Modi declared that water and blood cannot flow together. And when it comes to diplomacy, he stated unambiguously that any future talks with Pakistan will be on terrorism and on Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and nothing else.
पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो टेररिज्म पर ही होगी। अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो पाक ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर पीओके उस पर ही होगी।
And for more on this, we're being joined live by Adrian Calamel. He's a defense analyst from New York. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast on Beyond World is One.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has declared that the strikes on terror hubs in Pakistan were not a one-time response, but a new national policy against terrorism. So how do you view this new era of diplomacy, perhaps this new era of strategy?
I think it is an absolutely brilliant strategy. He has put it out there, and he made clear, if you look at the first pillar of his policy, that it's going to be a strong response. It's going to hit terror camps. It's at a time of our own choosing. And, and he kind of put the ball back in Pakistan's court. So I think we've kind of entered this new normal where, India is no longer going to put up with these attacks, these cross-border attacks that are clearly sponsored by Pakistan in one state or another, whether it's providing shelter, coordination, armaments, you name it. And I also think we see the other part playing out is that there's no more tolerance for nuclear blackmail. And I think we see the scope of the Indian operations, and it was very precise in the way they did it. They showed that it was a relatively large-scale operation that decisively took out terror camps, and the nuclear blackmail card did not play. Maybe that resonates in the West. That's what we'll hear from Western leaders. Oh, we have two nuclear-armed countries having an argument here and a fight, and it could go nuclear. We can't fall into that, and I think Modi really did a great job of putting his stake in the ground and saying, we're not going to fall to the nuclear blackmail game anymore.
Right, Mr. Calamel and Prime Ministers also talked about nuclear blackmail, saying that it would not stop the Indians from taking action against terror. Now, how does this bode for India and the world going further?
Well, I think when you look at nuclear blackmail, and the two countries that I fear the most when it comes to nuclear blackmail, I would put Pakistan kind of in that bucket, but the one country that is really driving hard for a nuclear weapon that I think the Trump administration should be listening to Modi's speech about nuclear blackmail is the Islamic Republic of Iran. I think they pose the greatest threat should they somehow get a nuclear weapon and use that to blackmail a region. And we know that they have a long history of being a state sponsor of terror. So the nuclear blackmail, it's something that I think that people have kind of put put this India, Pakistan, and the terrorism that goes in between into a pressure cooker by saying, oh, let's not let this escalate. Let's put pressure on India. Let's appease Pakistan and make sure this doesn't go nuclear. That's not the way you end this problem. It continues to get worse and worse and worse, as we see with the Pahalgam attacks.
Right, Mr. Calamel, and we've also seen U.S. intervention with Donald Trump claiming again that he was the one to broker this peace when India and Pakistan were embroiled in this conflict, which has been going on for a while. So how do you see this U.S. intervention?
Unhelpful. President Trump, if you look at his policies, and you look at his policy, go back to 2018 and signing the Doha deal with the Taliban. I have a really hard time understanding how you can sit across the table and sign a deal with the Taliban. And then when they break it repeatedly, either when you're in office or out of office, that's the state. So now Afghanistan is completely lost. We saw over a 20-year period, one of the main reasons we, took a bit of a beating in Afghanistan and for the length of that war was because Pakistan was harboring and sheltering Al-Qaeda, Taliban, the Haqqani network during the off-season. So President Trump should really be standing shoulder to shoulder with India on this issue and understand there is a shared interest here that an ocean does not protect you from these terrorist threats. And India, it probably is America's most important partner moving into the 21st century.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Kalman, for joining us on the broadcast today and sharing your perspective with us.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure.